Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress. My name is Sam. My usual co-host is off this week. Happy birthday, Riley. With me, of course, is almost every week now, Brady. How you doing tonight?
It's feeling good to get in this groove with you guys and seeing your faces every week. I'm doing great.
And of course, we have fan favorite Jessica. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? I'm a little bit tired, but
Well, that's probably
I'm always tired.
Yeah. I mean, that's the life of a mother.
Yeah.
So, but in Pardon Our Picks is brought to you, of course, by Morningwood Crafter, morningwoodcrafter.com, powered by design, crafted by hand, and Into Deep, the band in Maryland. Their next show isn't until November 27th. Keep up with their website for more details. Of course, they will be sending out information should they book a show in between now and then. But the season is half over, guys. It's a little weird to say that because it's a 17 games for each team now, but the season has finally reached the halfway point.
Sam, that you said it bestly. We're kind of at that halfway point, that middle ground, that 50-yard line, if you were. But this week we saw a lot of teams kind of drop the ball, as it were, and lose these almost layup games, these games that we're expected to win. Who do you guys think was the biggest upset this week?
Well, I think it's a pretty big one was the Buffalo Bills being upset by Jacksonville. Yeah, no one expected that. The Buffalo Bills have been and still are Super Bowl contenders. Jacksonville is clearly not on that list, nor will they be in the second half of the season. So, yeah, that was an ugly game and super low scoring game. Also, I didn't predict that. I thought that Buffalo Josh Allen was going to blow it up offensively, but Stephon Diggs really had nothing. No one on the offense did anything.
In my opinion, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there, Brady.
You're the host.
I know, but you posed the question, so I figured I'd answer your question for you. I wanted this. I really wanted to say it was the Giants over the Raiders, or it was the Cardinals over the 49ers without that quarterback.
Some of us picked both of those.
I mean, I picked the Cardinals to win, but I didn't realize that Kyler Murray would be out. I got to say the biggest one, of course, is the shellacking the Cowboys got against those Broncos. And, man, they took them to the woodshed. I mean, they held them without a point until the last 5 minutes of the game.
That was rough.
30-0. 30-0. The only thing I can say is I really hope that Dak Prescott's got that rust off from his injury. I mean, they're better than that. They should not have lost by that much. But as our currently not here co-host would revel in at the moment, the Broncos did come out big against those Cowboys. And funny enough, the Cowboys still got a 3-game lead in their division, so it didn't matter as much. But for the Broncos, it was huge because it keeps them tied win-wise with the other 3 teams in their division for the for the division lead. It's just nuts. So, what do you got, Brady?
I was in Colorado watching that game at a bar. So the energy alone was incredible, just to see all the Broncos fans get super excited because that was never expected to happen. So yeah, that's a good upset.
You'd say that energy was pretty mile high.
That's why we employ you, Jess, because you bring that hard-hitting facts directly from the scene.
Yeah, I'm on the scene reporting.
I've got to go with the Cardinals, honestly, because when you figure that not only your starting quarterback is out, but also your top wide receiver is out, they've had a carousel of starting centers this year, and J.J. Watt is done for the season with his shoulder injury. I kind of figured this was kind of going to be like the Cowboys did when Dak got injured. He rested. You know, it didn't seem like they were playing at 100%, but the Cardinals came out firing on all cylinders. Colt McCoy, you know, he was reported as, you know, learning Kyler Murray's style of quarterbacks. There was just kind of a plug and play aspect to him coming in instead of the offense having to learn how he plays quarterback. And honestly, that entire team, top to bottom, looked like nothing had changed. And that's saying something for a team who lost, in my opinion, the best receiver in the league and the guy who's gunning for an NFL MVP in Kyler Murray. So it may not be, you know, a crazy pick, but just how well that team played without their top two players blew me away.
Yeah.
Now, cool secondary, since you brought it up, question, which was more impressive, the Cooper Rush victory for the Cowboys or the Colt McCoy victory for the Arizona Cardinals?
I'm going to say Colt McCoy. And the only reason I'm going to say that is because San Francisco's defense has always been this vaunted, you know, just monster. I mean, they've got a Bosa brother on their line. And it didn't even look like San Francisco's defense showed up at all that game. I mean, Colt McCoy's stats may not have, you know, blown up the charts, but he did what was needed of him for them to win the game, as did Cooper Rush. But I think the task of going up against San Francisco's defense in San Francisco was just a little bit taller of an order.
Well, in my opinion, the fact that Colt McCoy has been around for so many years, he should have it down. Cooper Rush is a rookie. Well, not a rookie. He was there last year. But still, he'd never started a game. He'd thrown one pass in his career in the NFL. And he leads the team against a good defense in Minnesota and wins that game. I mean, you talk about defenses. San Francisco has been giving up points left and right to everybody. They gave up 30 points to Detroit. So,
It's a pretty good comparison between those two upsets, though, because both of those teams have very strong components outside of the quarterback as well, and very strong quarterbacks. And in both of those weeks, they went up against decent defenses. So I don't know if I could pick one, honestly.
We're going to make you pick one right now, Jessica. Who was it? Tell us now.
I guess I'll go with Arizona. I think there's so much hype around Kyler Murray just because, you know, he is so great that you kind of forget about the rest of the team sometimes. But they do have a lot of really good offensive players. And I expected San Francisco's defense to do more than I expected Minnesota's defense to do.
That's that Cowboys bias right there. I see it every single time. I was very
impressed with Cooper Rush, though.
I see that every single time the Cowboys are playing in my house and Jessica's there. She's like, man, don't want to watch
But it's
Cowboys.
The difference of scoring, 16 to 41 on the road. Like,
Dallas scored 20 on the road.
Okay, 20 to 41. We're going to raise this hand up a little bit more and put this one just out of camera.
I'm sticking with Cooper. Anyway.
Homer.
Anyway, all right, so let's get into the standings for the week. Let's see how we all did. And let's start with Jessica with the 9-5 week, getting the victory, getting another game closer to your current leader, me.
That was a rough week, though.
9-5 isn't a bad week, especially for upsets.
Yeah, but the upsets were a little crazy this week.
I mean, you felt like anyone would have done this. I mean, even people that actually get paid to do this. I mean, no one expected this amount of upsets, and I'm surprised that most of us came away with a 500 or better record.
Yeah, the only ones that didn't were Brian and Tom. Brian has fallen like a meteor.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the season. Brian, we love you, but you got to work on that, buddy.
Come on, Booger.
You can do it, Booger. We believe in you. Get in that Booger mobile. So, of course, all the rest of the teams, you know, we have a definitive order of standings now. There are no ties. It's me, it's Jessica, it's Brady, then Tarik, then Brian, and, you know, Tom, unfortunately, at the very, very end. Tom.
Is he even picking?
Well, I wouldn't put him
feel
on
like
here
he
if he
just-
wasn't.
That's a pretty bad record.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I feel like he just flips a coin and is like, yeah, sure, this will work. And that coin has not been kind to him so far.
I feel like when he's really, really trying, he does good. But I think he gets. I think he's just. I don't think he has his mind focused on the picks right now, so that's why he's not doing as good. But once he gets focused, he's hard to beat. Well, let's move on to our games of the week. We're going to start with Jessica. Who is your game of the week?
My game of the week is New Orleans and Tennessee.
Tennessee.
New Orleans at home against Tennessee.
Yep.
Nope, New Orleans at Tennessee. You're right. My goodness.
Okay. So Tennessee looked pretty good last week. New Orleans also at one point in the game looked pretty good. But sadly, they did not come back and win it against Atlanta. They lost by 2 points, I think it was. Whereas Tennessee, and they both suffered pretty serious losses on their team. New Orleans has lost their quarterback. Tennessee has lost Derrick Henry. Brought in Adrian Peterson. He's going to take some time to get spun up. But besides that, Ryan Tannehill looks really good. They're making stuff happen offensively and defensively. They got to Matt Stafford like crazy last week. So I'm looking forward to seeing much more rushes of the quarterback of New Orleans by Tennessee's defense and Ryan Tannehill pulling out some more moves. They're a very physical team. So I think that they're going to kind of tear New Orleans up. And it's going to be Tennessee by at least 7.
Okay. Brady.
I'm going to agree with you there. I think Tennessee kind of got written off after Derrick Henry got injured. And they really made a statement game against a team who was a lot of people's Super Bowl picks. And the LA Rams, whose offense has clicked on all cylinders for basically every game this season. And this was the first game where their offense looked like they had no answers. But Tennessee's offense rolled down the field against a star-studded defense. Granted, the Rams did not have Von Miller this week, but I really don't think that would have mattered. And the Saints, it seemed like they would have a drive where they would put it all together, and then the next drive they would go 3-and-out. I don't think the Saints are going to win another game, honestly, this season.
Wow.
They're not using Alvin Kamara to the extent of his ability. That with the checkdowns, they did it a little bit last week, but they didn't do it enough. I think Tennessee's just got too much going for them right now. They're riding that hype train, and I think they're going to come away with this, like Jess said, by at least a touchdown.
Now, there was one pundit on this panel who did predict that Tennessee was going to get better.
No, there wasn't.
Could have been.
No, there wasn't. That
was
person
me.
doesn't exist.
It was me. I said that Tannehill was gonna start having to throw the ball better. He was gonna have to sling. And he was gonna start slinging it better, just simply because he didn't have a lot of other options. And last week he did. He actually picked it up a bit against a really hard defense. It was impressive to me. I didn't think he would pick it up so quickly, especially against such a tough team. Now, New Orleans did show some signs of life with Trevor Siemian towards the end of the game. And, of course, with the Cordell Patterson 64-yard reception and the field goal at the end, kind of ruined their chances. I don't believe that they're not going to win another game this season. I don't see that happening. They got a good team around them. And quite frankly, as far as Alvin Kamara is concerned, I think their problem is more that they can't throw the ball, so teams are keying on the run. They're forcing them to throw the ball. And that's the reason why they got those 2 touchdowns really quick, because they actually connected with a few. That being said, I think this game is going to be closer than you guys are calling it. I'm going to call it a 3-point game for Tennessee. All right, let's move on to Brady's game of the week.
My game of the week this week is the Cleveland Browns going against the New England Patriots. And I think these teams match up really well, and that's not just because their records are the same. I think they both got young stud quarterbacks. I think they've both got really stout defenses. And I think they're both playing above what I personally shout out Dan Baker. You called me out on this today, and I will give you credit where credit is due. The Patriots are playing way better than I thought they would with a rookie quarterback, and the Browns are playing way better than I expected them to because they're the Browns. I've got the Patriots in this game simply because of how just stifling that defense was against the Carolina Panthers last week. That they got Christian McCaffrey back. They kind of had that whole offensive package back, and they couldn't do anything. I mean, Jamie Collins' interception there was like snatching a fly out of midair without looking. That defense has clicked under Bill Belichick, and I think this is going to be another huge game for that New England defense. Granted, Cleveland's offense did look great without OBJ last week, but I think that was a one and done thing.
I won't say that Cleveland's offense looking like that was a one and done thing. I think they've had that talent even without OBJ, but they are so inconsistent that they can be on fire one week in a good way and then on fire the next week in a bad way. But with New England playing the way they are, Mac Jones, when he's good, he looks good. Besides that, though, they're starting to run the ball better. Their defense obviously looks really good. And then Cleveland doesn't have Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb this week. So there's no doubt that I'm going with New England.
There is a possibility that Chubb will play simply because he has gotten the vaccine.
Oh.
But he has to have two consecutive negative tests.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So
very well might not play. But
even if Chubb does play, I'm still going to go with New England because their offense is in their stride right now, and their defense is great, doing well.
Cleveland, without the distraction of OBJ, did look a lot better last week, absolutely. But it could have also been a bit of a show. Those teams in Ohio tend to play each other funny every year. Quite frankly, I remember years ago, those two teams were the bottom of the barrel, and they put up 50-some points against each other. It was nuts. It was just nobody had defense anywhere. New England is actually doing a lot better this year than I had originally predicted. 5-4 is better than I thought they would be at this point. Cleveland at 5-4 is actually worse than I thought they would be. The defense, however, I think might be the factor this week for the Cleveland Browns. They're going to have to throw the ball. It's going to be tough, but I think that Cleveland pulls out the victory, probably by a last-second field goal.
That's a bold prediction, Cotton.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Atlanta Falcons going against those Dallas Cowboys. Both one team trying to bounce back, the other off of beating the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Who you got, Jess?
This one is kind of tough. I'm not really sure. I think it's going to come down to the line for me, but for now I have Dallas. I think that Dallas is a really good team, and I think last week was an embarrassment for them. So this week they have to come out like guns blazing. They have to prove that they belong where everybody says. They're going to have a challenge, though, with the veteran quarterback in Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of on a little bit of a win streak. And their wide receiver is young. He's feisty. He's getting the ball. I ultimately think Dallas is going to look like a better and more well-rounded team this week, and it's going to be a narrow win.
I agree with Jess. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than the spreads are kind of showing right now. Diggs, the Cowboys corner, he's now been burned on 2 consecutive weeks on a double move for a touchdown. So, and I fully expect them to line him up against either Kyle Pitts or Cordero Patterson, both who are fantastic receivers. So I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I really do. I still have the Cowboys coming in this because the Falcons aren't going to be able to key in on, you can't double cover everyone on the Cowboys offense because everyone on the Cowboys offense is good enough to beat man-on-man coverage. But I do think it's going to be close. I think maybe Cowboys by 6, but I still think this game is going to be like in the 30s for both teams.
I'm going to dispute any of that, considering the Cowboys don't really blow a lot of teams out this year. And I think their defense is actually starting to show a bit of cracks. Now they've been a bend don't break type defense all year, in that they've come up with the big plays when they needed them, but they didn't exactly stop teams from scoring or getting down the field. Atlanta, however, has been one of those teams that's been boom or bust. They're either really good, or in their case, decent, or they're really bad. And given that both teams went opposite directions last week, I think it flips this week. I think the Cowboys actually come out big. It's going to be a high-scoring game for both teams, but I have it at least by 7 points for Dallas. All right, let's move on to the next game, the Sunday night contest. Kansas City going against those criminals in Las Vegas. Who you got, Jess?
I'm not sure what the whole criminals thing is.
Well, Henry Ruggs, the other guy that they just cut, cornerback who posted a video of himself threatening people with guns.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Both of their first round picks from the last draft are now gone.
Yep.
Well, I was already going to pick Kansas City, but I'm going to go ahead and that solidifies it. God, Las Vegas cannot catch a break.
I know.
Yeah, they're just, I don't even know what to say. They keep losing their players and they keep going through these different trials. Their morale is not going to keep up, and their talent's not going to keep up. Kansas City, on the other hand, we're starting the second half of the season. They need to start coming out. I'm hoping this week was a momentum shift for them. They did look a little bit better, still serious improvements that need to be made, but I'm taking Kansas City here by at least 7.
I saw the Kansas City game last week as the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You have a team coming in without their starting quarterback. Their defense, while it has been good, it has not been that good all season. And they held the, second coming of Dan Marino, Patrick Mahomes, to 13 points. They did not get a first down after the first quarter until the fourth. Kansas City, I'm going to say this again. So if we have new viewers out there who don't want to watch our old videos, Kansas City is not a good team this year. I think the Raiders are going to run the ball very effectively this week, and you lean on that more than they did Derek Carr's arm last week in that loss. And I think the Raiders are going to run away with this game, and this is going to set Kansas City further back in their division, and Vegas is going to take first place.
Bold prediction that the other two teams in the West won't win. But there was one I really, really wanted to pick Vegas in this one, because when they cut Henry, they actually played pretty good, and now they're cutting another cancer from their team, and I think they might play pretty good again. Kansas City last week barely put up 13 points against a pretty decent Green Bay team, but they should have been able to put up. They should have, with their defense stopping them so much and giving them so many opportunities for possessions, they should have put up more points, even against a good defense. They were playing Jordan Love, the backup, who's not the answer in Green Bay.
Who he didn't look good this week. However,
he looked like Jamarcus Russell, someone who didn't even study the playbook.
It was
bad.
He's a good backup quarterback.
He might turn into a good backup, but right now he's not that guy. I mean, he couldn't put Kansas City's defense is a wet paper towel. I mean, it's you can get through it without a problem. Unfortunately, they couldn't. I mean, they couldn't get the ball down the field. They couldn't do anything. However, given Kansas City's proclivity for turnovers and Las Vegas's opportunistic type defense, I really wanted to pick Vegas in this, but I feel like the upset is going to be the Chiefs, which is weird because they are predicted to win this one. But I got Kansas City in this one. I got a feeling about it.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think Kansas City is a solid team, but I think they looked better last week than they have looked. They're making some improvements, and Las Vegas is just dealing with a ton of crap.
I feel like we could do an entire podcast on why Kansas City is not a good team this year, but I feel like if we keep talking about this, I'm going to drag this video on for an hour.
You know, I would agree with that. The only other thing I want to say is, yes, it seems like every single week in Las Vegas, they something happens.
It's not even just this year. Like when they signed Antonio Brown, they had that whole thing. I mean, there's always something.
That was in Oakland, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the same franchise.
Still the same team.
Same franchise, absolutely. And these signings are actually, it's funny, I said this at work earlier. I said these signings remind me of Al Davis. They are Al Davis type of signings. He would look at anything else other than the measurables. If a guy was super fast, he'd draft him high. Doesn't matter if he couldn't catch the ball. Doesn't matter if he had attitude problems. He would draft him.
Yeah, clearly attitude problems is a big one.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Al Davis, God rest his soul, is gone. He was a pioneer in the NFL, but his son seems to be taking up the mantle for him. So, all right, folks, let's get to those quick hitters, and we're going to start with the Thursday night game, Baltimore going against those pesky Dolphins.
We're going to go with Baltimore here.
Baltimore because Miami doesn't seem to know what they're doing on offense.
Baltimore, and that's because Miami has no idea who they are. Baltimore hasn't looked great in the past couple games. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Jaguars, winners last week over those Bills, playing the 4-5 Colts.
The Colts in this one, they're a stronger team. That was a fluke last week.
Colts found the recipe for success to winning multiple games in a row. That's running the ball effectively. Jonathan Taylor for another 150 yards this week.
I wouldn't say he's going to get 150 yards, but I actually think it's going to be a high-scoring game on both sides. I have the Colts winning, though. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Buffalo Bills, losers last week, of course, going against the New York Jets.
Buffalo Bills bounce back this week. All their star-studded offense do really well. New York Jets, not so much.
I think it's going to be a little bit closer if Mike White plays, but if Mike White doesn't play, then Buffalo Bills by 30.
Buffalo needs a bounce back. Quite frankly, the fact that Josh Allen, it was hard to tell who was actually playing quarterback last week for the Bills. The fact that he didn't play well last week cost me one of my fantasy games. I'm a little peeved, but they win this week. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the 0-8 Lions going against those Steelers. Do they get off the schneid this week?
Oh man, I really want to pick the Lions, but I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think it's a safer bet. They find ways to win, even if it's taking advantage of terrible calls. So we're going with the Steelers.
She beat me to it, folks. Last night's game was an atrocity on the sport, but I still cannot pick the 0-8 Lions on the road. If this is at home, be a different pick. Steelers in this game.
Lions have burned me too many times, and I was asleep for that game last night. I'm picking the Steelers to win this game, even though I think Ben Roethlisberger is still pretty trash. Let's move on to the next game. We have the 6-2 Tampa Bay Tom Brady's going against that football team. Who you got?
This is going to be Tampa Bay coming off of a bye, and Heineke's just not going to do it.
Tampa Bay is going to Tom Brady over the nameless football team.
Tom Brady's almost impossible to beat after a bye. Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Let's move on to the next game. Let's see who we got. We have the Carolina Panthers going into Arizona. Hopefully, Kyler Murray's back. Who you got?
Arizona. Even without Kyler Murray, I think Arizona's just a much better team.
Agreed. Their ability to run the ball last week was indicative of how they were going to do. And Carolina's defense, while better than some expected, especially after the trade for Stephon Gilmore, I don't think they have enough to stop the Cardinals this week.
I would agree with that. I think Arizona gets the win. It'll be a low-scoring game if Murray's not there. If not, it's a blowout. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Vikings going against the Chargers. Who you guys got in this one?
It's going to be the Chargers for me. They're a better team. I think that it's not going to be as high scoring, and it's going to be a close game, though, with Minnesota's defense.
I've got the Vikings in this one simply because the Eagles, who have looked absolutely atrocious at times this year, almost beat them because of almost pulled a Sam and said San Diego's defense. I think the Vikings are going to really rely on running the ball in this game and control the clock.
The Vikings have, on occasion, also looked pretty terrible. Quite frankly, I think the Chargers bounced back from what was an anomaly last week. Chargers with the victory. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have those Eagles playing against the surprising 5-4 Denver Broncos. Who you got?
I'm going with Denver here. I think they're going to try to keep that run alive in their division. I just don't think the Eagles have it.
I've got the Eagles in this one. I think they kind of proved to themselves last week what we've all been saying for this long is that they're a better running team than they are a passing team. I think Denver looked really good last week, but I think the Eagles just have a little bit more in this one.
Both of these teams have burned me all year. Every time I pick these teams to win, they lose. Every time I don't pick them, they win.
So you're picking the tie.
Well, what I did is because I couldn't pick, I came up with a foolproof solution to not share any blame, and that's I had my mother pick one. I labeled one odds and one evens, and she picked the evens, and that's why I'm going with the Broncos.
You didn't do could an eagle beat a horse in a fight?
I thought about it, but then I was like, they're both pretty terrible to begin with, and I picked Broncos. They can
Moving
win.
on.
Either one of these teams could win. I got the Broncos. Let's move on to the next game. The Seattle Seahawks going against those 7-2 Green Bay Packers with a fresh-faced Aaron Rodgers, probably.
Yeah, so since this is a Sunday game, Aaron Rodgers should be back. And the rest of their team, people who were out are back offensively. So definitely Green Bay here. I think Russell Wilson comes back this week.
Yep, he has been cleared.
It's not going to be enough, I don't think. I still think it's going to be Green Bay. But it would be awesome if it was not Green Bay.
I agree. I think Green Bay is going to win this game just because their defense is better than Seattle's defense. I know they don't play on the same team on the same time, but with Aaron Rodgers coming back and kind of cementing the fact that he is what this team needs to win, no matter personal opinions aside, I think Green Bay is going to have an offensive showing in this game and a defensive showing.
I'm not going to lie. I don't want to pick the Green Bay Packers in this one. And, I think with Russell Wilson coming back and the fact that they are so far behind the 8 ball right now, I think that they're desperate for the victory. And Green Bay is ripe for the plucking. I've got Seattle with the upset this week.
Ooh, bold pick for someone in first place.
Wow.
In first place, you can make those picks because I have a buffer.
And then next week when you're in third place, we'll talk about that buffer for our question of the week.
Yeah, that would be the question of the week if I dropped all the way to third place this week.
When?
Anywho, let's move on to the last game of the night. We have the Monday night game. Those 7-2 Los Angeles Rams going against the San Francisco 49ers.
So I'm going to go ahead with Los Angeles Rams here. Apparently my picks did not reflect that. But I just think San Francisco's defense really hasn't impressed me as much as I kind of expected in the last few games, at least. And I think the Rams have to come back from some embarrassment this week.
I agree. I think last week's loss by the Rams was an anomaly.
Mm.
And I think this is going to get back to that high-powered, high-flying offense. And I think San Francisco's offense isn't going to be able to keep them pace for pace with them.
Listen, guys, I am picking the upset in this one. No, I'm not. Can't do it. San Francisco, I actually think it's going to be a close game. Seeing as it's in San Francisco on Monday night, I think it's going to be 20s, high 20s for both teams. Well, I got the Rams winning this one.
I think it will be a close game if the Rams don't do something about that offensive line protection to Stafford.
It's a good point.
He's gonna end up getting hurt if that keeps happening.
I mean, he did survive many years in Detroit. I think it'll be okay.
His first 2 seasons he dislocated each shoulder.
Then he played 8 years without it.
Yeah.
Without an injury, so I think he's used to the beatings.
Well, if they want him to throw the ball effectively, they need to do something about that.
I would agree. All right, Jessica, take us home.
Don't forget to like and subscribe our page. Let us know what you liked about our video and leave us some comments about who's right and how Sam's going to drop to 3rd place. The more you like and subscribe, the more you'll find out when we release a new video.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's good.
I wasn't prepared for that, so best I got. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. All right. So for Pardon Our Picks, I'm Sam.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Brady.
And you have a great football week.